Monster Hunter World is set to have a second open beta from January 19th to the 22nd. I was only able to play 40 minutes of the last open beta. This is far less time than I would have liked to spend before stating my opinion of the beta. However, in this short amount of time, I was able to form some fairly strong opinions about numerous systems in the game. I thought I would share them in this video. The main premise of the game is that you choose a hunt that you wish to partake on. There are different difficulty levels for the hunts. Of the 3 available in the beta, I played the normal and expert ones. These hunts can be played solo or in co-op, and in these hunts you have to track down the monster and then hunt it. The monsters are different from hunt to hunt, with each of them being similar to some breed of dinosaur. It's a really interesting premise, but one that was riddled with problems. Beginning with tracking down the monster, you have to use clues in the world such as footprints or mucus splatters to find where a monster is heading. But for some reason it seemed as if my character had to stop to smell each footprint. I could see numerous footprints all in one row, but she seemed to stop and look at each individual one. This was an animation that lasted for 3 seconds or so. With the hunt being timed, I couldn't help but feel annoyed by how I had to stop, bend down, and feel or smell a print. I understand maybe doing this for the first one, but why every single one after that? Can't I just use my eyes to see that they were obviously all the same track? Maybe this was unnecessary, like maybe I didn't have to actually stop, but I think it also gave me additional XP for looking at them. The other part of tracking is that you get scout flies that help you track down the monster. Unfortunately, they seem to lead you in weird directions and are not always helpful. At times I would just ignore them because they would seem to lead me in the wrong direction. They definitely need to be fixed so that they become actual helpers rather than weird mischievous wisps that throw you off the trail. So after you track down the monster, you then fight the monster. This is where most of the problems for me begin, starting with the biggest one. You cannot see the health of the monster you're fighting. These battles can last for several minutes at a time, but I have no clue if I'm close to killing the monster or extremely far off. I'm not sure whether I should press the attack or run for my life. There does not seem to be any way to judge whether the monster is close to death or not. I found this extremely annoying as the timed battles kept getting closer and closer to the deadline. I wasn't sure if I was close to victory or not. I once died and had to track down the monster again, and I couldn't tell if the monster regained his health or had the same exact health from where I left off. I think just having a simple health bar for the monster would greatly improve the experience of the game. There seemed to be some visual cues such as blood coming off of the monster, but this would either not happen after several attacks or would only happen after fighting the monster for a while. It would not gradually increase or appear in any way that could show me how much damage I was dealing to the beasts. Also, as I attack, I'm doing 3, 4, and 12 damage, different numbers, and these numbers are popping up, but what do they mean? Are those good numbers? Since I can't see the health of the monster, they are literally useless as I have no other number to base them off of. Now, I understand not being able to see the health could be maybe part of the challenge, but to me, it's just annoying because there's not enough to go off of, and I feel like it would be much more helpful if I could actually see the monster's health. An annoying aspect of combat for me was that the monster would constantly fight me, then run away, then fight me, then run away. It made for a very boring and repetitive encounter. This wasn't challenging at all. It was actually exhausting as this happened several times in one fight. I would also try to run after the monster and push in L3 to sprint like in almost any other game, but it seems to automatically make you holster your weapon. Every time you sprint, you have to go through a 2-second or so animation of you holstering your weapon. It really breaks the pacing of the combat. It may be more realistic to draw your giant weapon in this amount of time, but a pain when you are just trying to move closer to the enemy only to accidentally sheath your weapon. You then have to wait for the animation, then wait for the drawing of your weapon animation, and the animation made it look like my character was just casually holstering her weapon. She had no sense of urgency and seemed to be lackadaisical in fighting against this giant monster that could rip her face off. It just makes for a really annoying time when you are trying to do split-second actions in combat. And to continue on pacing, the combat feels sluggish. It's not necessarily slow, but just feels too clunky. It also doesn't feel responsive enough. Trying to do certain actions at times doesn't seem to always work. It could be human error on my part, but there were several times where I would be pressing a button to do an action and nothing would happen. When attacking the monsters, you can also lock onto the target, but the lock-on does not work well. Upon locking on, I would begin attacking the monster from fairly close. Unfortunately, my character would just sometimes attack the air, or if the monster would move out of the way, I would have to readjust the lock-on. I felt that I had more success fighting the monster without locking on, but this did not seem to trigger special attacks. It was a weird balance between deciding if I wanted to lock on to potentially miss a majority of my attacks but have access to larger attacks, or if I wanted to have a greater guarantee of landing consistent attacks. And this doesn't seem to be a gameplay mechanic, it's just something messed up with the game. Continuing with combat, you cannot cancel attacks. Some attacks can take a few seconds to execute. Within this time, the monster could land a huge attack on you. I would try to dodge or block during these attacks, but my character would still be trying to complete her attack. I feel that a melee-based game needs to have the option for split-second dodges or even more realistically blocking, but it didn't seem possible with the majority of the actions. Moving on to the timed aspect of the game, there are a couple of gripes for me with this as well. The first being somewhat minor, but you have to sit through unskippable dialogue at the beginning. I assume it does not affect the actual time of the mission to watch this, but I would like the option to just jump into the game, or at least skip the dialogue once I finish reading the subtitles incorporated into the game. There's no reason to always hear the hunt giver say similar dialogue every single time, and my biggest problem with the timed aspect is that you cannot see how much time is left on the screen. I thought this was the dumbest thing, alongside not being able to see the monster's health. The health I can understand a bit more, as it may be an added challenge, but how hard would it be to just have a small clock on the screen? The HUD is a bit much as is, but I think you could at least have a countdown next to the map. It wouldn't hurt anything to have this on screen. Now, there are a few other things that I want to mention as well that do not really need a lot of exposition. The first is that I like the variety of weapons. There are different ranged weapons with different ammo types and a plethora of different melee weapons. If the combat felt better, then I feel that these weapons could be really utilized. Another thing is the lack of story is a bit off-putting for me. I feel that without a central story, this game is going to be very dull for those who play the game solo. This was the same problem that Destiny and The Division had, and I feel the same vibes coming from this game as well. As a co-op game, it isn't as important, but for the solo players, I do not know if there's enough here to keep them entertained. Another problem is that I think there's just too many actions to keep up with a controller. Some actions do similar things, while others you have to press several buttons to get to what you want the action to actually do. I feel that a keyboard and mouse is almost essential for this game, or would at least make the game a better experience. Keyboard and mouse support would definitely be welcome to this game, such as how Final Fantasy XIV allows it on the PlayStation. I would also compare the experience to playing an MMO or an RPG similar to Dragon Age with a controller. A keyboard and mouse is just way more practical. It's also nice to have an AI companion to help you out. Not sure how helpful it actually is, but it does heal you at times, which is a definite plus. And those are my thoughts on my short time with the last open beta. So maybe some of these problems will be fixed in the next beta, or maybe spending more time with the game will change my mind. I think that the game has a cool design and great premise, but I do not think the game is in a good enough state as is to warrant a purchase from me. If these problems were to be fixed, I would be more likely to purchase this game, but I feel that I can only hunt dinosaurs for so long before getting bored. Let me know what you all think about the game in the comments section below, and if you are interested in playing the game, the next open beta will be from January 19th to the 22nd. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, then please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel to be notified of when I post more videos. If you want to see my time playing this game, then make sure to check out my other channel, JAMnBreadPlays, where I have my gameplay with live commentary of the beta. And I will see you all in the next one. Okay, bye guys.